better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.life to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wildcard Wednesday, and today we are talking about, well, a lot of stuff, but digestion. Digestion is the topic of this morning, so I hope you're excited. Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Robin. Glad to see you guys this morning. Thanks for joining me. So this morning, I am linking a conversation from the show Defining Dad Bod, where we talk about 5 steps to improving your digestion. And yeah, some of them are nutrition related, and so I guess you could say it's about improving your nutrition, but here's the thing. About 2 years ago, I wrestled with my first flare-up with ulcerative colitis. And that is a common comorbidity with Ehlers-Danlos. It's really frustrating. The layman's way of saying it is I had severe pain in my digestive tract, specifically through my small and large intestine, while digesting food. And so what that looked like was me waking up at 3 a.m. and just not being able to get back to sleep and wishing that there was something I could take or something that I could drink or some position I could fold my body into where it didn't hurt anymore. And so I got really interested in how I could improve my digestion. Now, up until that point, I'd been in the fitness industry for about 13 years. And so it was a regular occurrence. No pun intended. Wow. Sorry, poop jokes are too funny. Anyway, so it was a regular occurrence in my practice to help people, increase their fiber intake, which we talked about yesterday on Nutrition Tip Tuesday, how you could have things like cellulose added to your tortilla and they're like 11 grams of dietary fiber. I'm like, hang on a minute. That might be a little rough on your digestive tract. We were working in my practice for personal training up until that point, helping people get, good sources of vegetable and fruit fibers in their diet, things that were naturally occurring, things that were good for your microbiome, things that weren't rough on your digestive tract. Good morning, Kat. Nice to see you this morning. And so that said, I, knew the basics. I knew that you should take a probiotic sometimes, especially if you had an antibiotic prior, and I knew that it was important to have a variation of carbohydrates in your diet, specifically fibers, but, outside of the general knowledge of digestion, I didn't know a lot of the specifics. And so, as you can imagine, when you're in pain at 3 a.m. and you've got nothing better to do, I started diving into a lot of the specifics. And that's what this episode that I'm connecting you on Wildcard Wednesday to is all about, the specifics. And gosh, man, when it comes to digestion, we could fill, there are books. I was going to say we could fill a book. There are a lot of books worth reading on digestion. But what I tried to do is I tried to boil all of that research and all of the practical knowledge and know-how and all of the nuance. I tried to boil that down into 5 things that the average person, that would be us, the average person could do to improve your digestion, regardless of medical status, right? Unless you're like missing a portion of your digestive tract, and some people are, unless you're like missing a portion of your digestive tract, then every single one of these steps could be powerful and helpful in improving your digestion. So I hope you'll check that out. I hope you'll find it, I know you'll find it beneficial and meaningful, because it's your digestive tract. It doesn't really get enough credit or clout, man. That thing goes through literally tons, like metric tons. It goes through literally tons of food in a span of years of your life. That is a lot of work. It's an amazing amount of work to go through all, and I think probably, the brain gets a lot of clout as an organ in the body because, you think with it. You're trying to hear what I'm saying with your brain right now. I'm trying to speak what I mean with my brain right now, and it's controlling a lot of processes. It's a very cool organ. Your heart is a very cool organ. It's very important and very powerful. It pumps blood all through the body and moves oxygen from your respiratory tract through your circulatory system to every one of your cells and makes things work, right? It's very important. But the digestive tract, that's kind of gassy and stinky and gross and it's important. Your digestive tract is important, and you don't realize how important it is until it's not working like it's supposed to. It's kind of like the internet. Like the internet in your house, you got broadband or Wi-Fi or whatever, and as long as everything's working well, you'll never mention it. You'll never care about it. It doesn't matter, right? As long as it's working, you can send your emails, you can stream your Netflix, you can, watch cute videos of your grandkids, right? You can do all the things that you want to do, but when it goes out, all of a sudden your internet flickers in and out, or it gets really slow, it gets bogged down, something's wrong with your router, something's wrong with the connection. All of a sudden, everything in your life has to, I gotta deal with this internet issue because I gotta pay my bills and calls need to come through and I need to send my emails and dang it, I really enjoyed that show I was watching, right? That's what your digestive tract is like. As long as everything's working well, you don't even notice it. But when it's not, it's like life comes to a grinding halt. You gotta stop down and you gotta deal with it. And so this episode is about 5 practical things that you can do to improve your digestion starting literally today. So I'll put that link here in the notes if you're catching us on the podcast. It's going to play in just a second. Hang with me. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for Better Daily Live for Wildcard Wednesday. Before I leave you, 2 things. 1, tomorrow is our prayer get-together, and it's going to be powerful and good. I'm very excited. Those of you who can join us live, I think you'll find it a very awesome opportunity. We don't record those. We don't put those out in the world. So either come or don't, but it's powerful and good, at least for those of us who were there last month. And number 2, some of us in here are doing a virtual 5 and 10K together, and I'm really excited about it. It's not open to everybody, so we're doing one that's open to everybody right after Thanksgiving. We're doing a Better Daily Turkey Trot, and it's going to be virtual. It's going to be awesome. Very, very simply, you're going to use your Run app or Walk if you're not much of a runner yet, and that is okay. We're gonna be putting out our 5K and 10K together then. So get excited for that. If you want to make a certain time and try to beat Scott Hammonds or T. Arthur May, that guy, he's blazing fast. Shout out to you, man. You're kicking my butt. Anyway, if you want to beat somebody, then you better get on the training. You got 2 weeks. Eat something powerful during Thanksgiving to get it done. But I'm really looking forward to that too, and hope you'll join us. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this episode with you. Remember, it's just 1%. You got this. So let's talk about better digestion. We're going to talk today about 5 steps that we can take daily to create better digestion in ourselves. Now, this is very personal to me in particular, and I want to explain to you why digestion is so important, not just for myself, but also for clients that I've worked with in the past 14 years. Recently, and as of recently, I mean toward the beginning of 2020, I had a bout of an ulcerative colitis flare-up. And that was very difficult on me. I didn't know what was happening. I was waking up at 3 a.m. with severe pain in my digestive tract. Up until that point in my life, I would tell you that I was eating very healthfully. I had a great protein intake. I wasn't eating, crazy processed garbage on a regular basis. I wasn't drinking anything weird. I would tell you that I, for the most part, was a very healthy person. And so to wrestle with ulcerative colitis and to wake up at 3 a.m. with intense digestive discomfort and not know what was going on was a huge eye-opening thing to me. And so in the process of wrestling with that and dealing with that pain and dealing with that recovery, which I've spoken about on the show before, and you're very welcome to check that out. I've got the link in the description below if that's pertinent to you. In the course of wrestling with that, I had to understand better about how the digestive system worked, how important it was to me, and what I could honestly do about that for myself. And what was weird, and maybe this is part of the synchronicity of the universe, I believe that God puts people in our path that can mesh with our stories so that maybe we can come out of the fire carrying buckets of water for those who are still on fire. And with that being said, I had started to understand among my clients that there were a lot of digestive issues that people weren't talking about. I mean, really, when you're talking to the guy who's helping you create your workouts and maybe helping you work toward a 6-pack or lose 30 pounds or get off some medications or whatever it is, The idea that you're going to the bathroom regularly and that it's diarrhea and it's gross and you have flatulence and all that stuff, that doesn't really come up often in conversation, or at least it didn't before I was wrestling with this stuff early this year myself. So, that being said, today we're going to talk about 5 steps toward better daily digestion, and I really hope that this doesn't feel like a namby-pamby, frou-frou tips and tricks for the fitness world video or podcast to you, because these are really, each one of these things, each one of these 5 things is on the cutting edge of what we're understanding about digestive health, about nutrition, and about the behavior change related to the psychological process of improving yourself daily. So, as I'm going through this, I hope that you're taking notes and that you're very welcome to check out the links that we have below to help you get this right for yourself. This is something we address in our Jumpstart program. This is something that we address in our health coaching. This is also something that we address in our nutrition coaching. And so I hope that you find this powerful. So the first thing, we've got 5 things that we can run through today that can help you improve your digestion. And I'm talking like starting today. You can start each one of these things today or all 5 of them, and it will help you improve the health of your digestive tract, the function of your digestive tract, and therefore so many other processes in the body. So the first thing that you can do is start keeping a food journal. Oh my gosh, that's not mind-blowing. No, it's not. It's not mind-blowing, but you would be very surprised at the trends that you can find in yourself when you actually start recording the data. This is the very first step that I take with every single one of my clients in nutrition coaching, in health coaching, even in fitness coaching. I recommend keeping a food journal, and I make them submit that to me daily. Why? It's not because I know exactly the perfect things to eat for you and that you need to get it done. It's because once you start becoming aware of the things that you put in your mouth daily and how those things are affecting the way that you feel, whether or not you feel energetic, whether or not you feel tired, whether or not your stomach hurts, whether or not you've got some problems in the bathroom, all of those things start to come to light when you actually write them down, and you can see them in plain English right in front of your face, right? Now, the other thing that food journaling does for us, in addition to this, is let's say in the future you want to work towards some body composition goals. Then food journaling also allows us to look at your macronutrient intake. We can see the differences between what you should be eating in terms of vitamins and minerals and polysaccharides, but also in terms of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And so if you want to improve your digestion, and perhaps you have some other goals that you're working toward in the future, if you're not keeping a food journal daily, then you're missing out. And it doesn't really need to be that intense, okay? I usually, for most of my clients, I recommend things like MyFitnessPal. Those apps have come a long way in the previous years to just make it so much easier to keep a food journal. If let's say you have a breakfast that you eat regularly, and you don't have to type in every individual item anymore. You can type your breakfast once. You can select those foodstuffs once, and then tomorrow you can say, hey, my normal breakfast, and it will auto-populate for you, which is pretty powerful. So for most of my clients, especially if they're keeping the same sort of routine with their breakfast and the same sort of routine with their lunch, and they have a little variation in their snacks, and maybe dinner is different every day, that sort of thing, then keeping a food journal should take you 1 to 3 minutes tops daily. And I love it when people are like, I didn't keep my food journal, I didn't have time. It's like, you don't have 3 minutes? I promise you have 3 minutes. You know, if you have digestive issues, you probably have way more than that sitting on the john, which is probably spent scrolling through some social media and stuff. Hashtag first world problems, right? So anyway, that being said, keep a food journal. Your first step toward improving your digestion is to become aware of what you're eating and to begin getting a sense of how the things that you're putting in your mouth are correlated with how you feel and how your body's responding to those things. That will also help if you're working with a professional like myself or a professional like your doctor to mitigate some of the issues, because they're going to want to see what it is that you've been eating. Let's say you're going to go through an elimination diet, for instance, and it's very simple to look back over 2 weeks of food journals and say, wow, you're eating a lot of gluten. Wow, you're eating a lot of dairy. Wow, you're eating a lot of eggs. And these are commonly sensitive foods that if we remove them from your diet, it's very possible that your digestion would benefit from that. And perhaps, later we can add them back in the future after your body reduces the inflammatory markers and recovers from that. But we won't know those things until you keep a food journal. So keep a food journal. Start keeping a food journal. Start writing down your food. Start recording what it is that's going on. You don't have to do this forever. It's just a perfect start to improving your digestive health. And no matter what I say the rest of this episode, if you're not doing that, nothing else matters. So there you have it. The number two thing out of 5 that we can do to start improving your digestion is to nix the bad guys. Nix the bad guys. What do I mean by nix the bad guys? Actually, it has 2 meanings. One, there are some foods that could be causing you inflammatory problems, meaning that there are things that we ingest that, given our genetic heritage, given our microbiome, given the condition of our gut tissue right now, that they could be irritating us. They could be making things difficult on us. And then the other thing I mean by nix the bad guys is that there are microbes in your digestive tract that are pro-inflammatory. And I call those the bad guys. Pro-inflammatory meaning that these little bugs in your gut, for whatever reason, are producing an excess amount of methane that would cause flatulence, for instance. And it's very embarrassing and very stinky, right? Maybe those bad guys are creating that gas in your gut. Maybe some of those bad guys are triggering your immune response to send inflammatory markers and white blood cells and C-reactive proteins to the area of the gut, and so you're constantly inflamed because of the presence of these microbes. And so the number 2 thing that we can do to help you with your digestion is to nix the bad guys. So we can nix the foods that might be inflammatory to you, and we could also set about trying to nix some of the bacterial colonies that are feeding on those foods and might be causing you problems overall. Now, you can get really intense with this, right? So some digestive experts, I wouldn't consider myself a digestive expert. This is an easy list of 5 things that you can do. So if you have serious problems, you can definitely reach out to somebody who's more well-versed than I am here. But I'm hoping that if you can implement these 5 things, you'll see an immediate improvement. Anyway, that being said, some digestive experts will do things like stool sample testing to find out what microbes, what parasites are currently in your digestive tract that could be removed given herbal supplementation, maybe even an antibiotic, a very targeted antibiotic, or an antimicrobial substance to help you kind of pull those things out, kill the bad guys, so to speak. And then they go from there. For my part, I would say that the average person that I work with benefits very significantly by 1, reducing their sugar and processed food intake. That's one of the simplest things you can do to start nixing the bad guys. If you stop feeding the bad microbes lots of sugar and lots of processed carbohydrates, which are going to be converted to different sugars at the level of the large intestine, and those bad guys can't eat those things anymore, then, the colonies weaken and they die off, and then the good guys can proliferate and do what they're supposed to do. And then the second thing is there are many, many herbal supplements in the world that have been found to be antimicrobial. Garlic's on that list. Ginger is on that list. Oregano is on that list. Wormwood is on that list. And these herbal supplements can be really helpful in ridding the body of parasites and ridding the body of harmful microbes that you don't want in your system. Again, people who do this regularly, like this is their specialty, they would do a stool sample analysis to understand what herbal supplement you could be using in a targeted fashion to kick some bacterial colonies and whatnot. For my part, when I wrestled with this at the beginning of 2020, I added ginger in my diet regularly, and I started taking wormwood, sweet wormwood regularly, and that was something that I did for 60 days. I had ginger tea and wormwood, and that really helped with the microbes that were causing me problems with ulcerative colitis. It was a powerful part of that. I was already not eating a lot of sugar in my dietary intake, nor was I eating a lot of processed carbohydrates, so that wasn't too difficult for me. But that's one of the things that you can be doing right now to improve your digestion. And when I say processed foods, I mean, look at it. If it comes in a package and it doesn't look very similar to where it came from, you have like 3 pretty intense, bleached, enriched flour plus potassium sorbate plus, I'm not saying these are bad things. I'm saying that if you have digestive problems, you're best to stick with whole foods, your fruits and veggies that look like the fruits and veggies that they came from, or your whole animal products. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of fish. They're not ground up and put in a tiny little powdery container. That would be gross. Anyway, fish protein. Can't even imagine. I like fish, and that made me gag just saying that out loud. So Anyway, that being said, you want to nix the bad guys. You want to nix the processed stuff. You want to nix the excesses amount of sugar, and you want to address whether or not you might be wrestling with some harmful microbes in your system. My go-tos are ginger and wormwood. I find those work really, really well for me, and other people can benefit from things like garlic, oregano, and that list. So if you want to test for that stuff, they do have stool sample testing available. I'll put a link in my show notes below for a professional that I know who does that on a regular basis, Dr. Adrian Chavez, who I've had on the show multiple times in the past talking about similar things, but he specializes specifically in handling those harmful microbes. So the number three thing that you can do to be benefiting your digestive system is to reinforce the good guys. So we're journaling, we're nixing the bad guys, and now we're reinforcing the good guys. Look, I've said this before in my probiotics episode, I've said it before in other places. There's a war going on in your digestive tract right now between the good microbes that are benefiting you from a health and fitness perspective and the bad microbes who aren't benefiting you from a health and fitness perspective. And no harm, no foul. Every life form is, at its core, a very selfish entity. The bad microbes just want to live and keep proliferating and making their little bad microbe babies. And similarly with the good microbes, they're not really doing it for you. They're doing it for them and the colonies thereafter. But there's a battle going on in your digestive tract right now between those two entities. And the question is, if you can nix the bad guys, you can stop feeding them, stop reinforcing their colonies, stop promoting and proliferating them, then you give the good guys an advantage. And it's also possible that you could reinforce the good guys. You could actually improve their ranks, so to speak, and maybe even feed them well, right? So how do we reinforce the good guys? Well, I'll talk a little bit more about this in step 4, but one of the most beneficial things that we can do is to take a powerful probiotic or introduce fermented foods. And I don't mean to make that an either or concept. For some people, fermented foods just don't taste very good and they're not willing to develop a taste for that. And that's okay. That's why probiotic supplements can be powerful and helpful. But some of my favorite probiotic foods are things like kefir. That is a fermented dairy product. And before you say, oh, I don't do dairy, unless you actually have a sensitivity to the protein, kefir has a very, very low lactose content because the bacteria that ferment kefir actually use the lactose for the fermentation process, right? So kefir is actually very, very low in lactose compared to just straight milk. And it's low in lactose compared to things like whey protein or casein. So if you had problems with dairy in the past, it's very possible that kefir is not going to be a huge problem for you. If it is, you can get goat's milk that's been fermented. That's goat's milk kefir. And then you can also make kefir out of soy milk or even coconut milk. You just have to find the right probiotic strains to drop in a little can and stuff. Maybe I'll talk more about that if you're interested in making your own kefir. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, that said, kefir is one of my favorite fermented foods. And then another fermented food, you can do kimchi, which is from cabbage. That's kind of the oriental version of fermented cabbage. But you can also ferment your own cabbage in like a mason jar and make you some sauerkraut. And sauerkraut can be a really powerful way to introduce probiotic positive microbes to your digestive tract and reinforce the good guys, right? And there are a few other fermented foods like natto. Natto is fermented soybeans. And before you're like, hey, soy is probably bad for my testosterone, isn't it? Yeah, if you get the processed garbage soy, yeah, for sure. But fermented soy can actually be a powerful part of improving your digestive tract. And then I've done an entire episode on probiotics where I talk specifically about one probiotic called Saccharomyces boulardii, which is actually a yeast that improves several of the powerful and good microbes in our digestive tract. And so I'll put the link in the show notes below for that specific probiotic strain because it is good and it is powerful, and you might want to know about that if you're reinforcing the good guys. So we're keeping a food journal to understand how different foods are affecting us. We're nixing the bad guys, both the foods and trying to get rid of some of those harmful microbes. And we're reinforcing the good guys by improving the amount of good guys that are in our system. Now, the fourth thing that we can do to improve our digestion actually follows along this path. I call it the 5-5-5 rule. So maybe this is just a really good way for me to get 3 more things into my list of 5 without having to call it my list of 8 things. So I apologize in advance about that. But the 5-5-5 rule is 3 things that we can do 5 times or 5 times a day that will help our digestive tract, right? So the first thing is we need 5 different colorful plants every day. 5 different colorful plants every day. Now this goes back to reinforcing the good guys, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of the word prebiotic, but prebiotics are what the probiotics eat, right? Remember I talked about nixing the bad guys. We want to get rid of their food supply so that the bad army can't take over the good army, right? Well, we want to feed the good army. What do we feed the good army? Well, we feed them prebiotics. Prebiotics are polysaccharides, fibers, and even short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that you can find in butter or that can be converted from resistant starches in the large intestine. And so the first 5 in the 5-5-5 rule is 5 different fruits and veggies daily. And that's pretty powerful. You know, I like to incorporate blackberries or blueberries with my breakfast. I like to eat a carrot or 2 at a snack or maybe even a bell pepper. We do half sour pickles in our house. Those are our cucumbers. Not like we don't buy the store-bought stuff with sodium benzoate in it. Is killing off some of your positive probiotic and prebiotic compounds in your actual pickles. So make them at home with a little bit of water and salt and maybe even a little vinegar, and you'll be in a much better spot. Anyway, we do that at home. But gosh, the list is huge. The list of things that you could possibly add to yourself that's high in prebiotic fibers for your body is huge. And getting 5 a day is not as hard as it sounds. And I'm not saying like 5 full servings, like you must eat 1 cup of spinach. I'm saying that all of these different plant foods are feeding your gut different polysaccharides to promote a better army. So I talked about the differentiation between good microbes and bad microbes, right? That's very, very, very simplified way of thinking about things. But if we get down to the nitty gritty, I don't know if you remember some of the great movies where big wars happen, right? Like Chronicles of Narnia would be a good example, or The Lord of the Rings, right? An army is not just good guys and bad guys. Each army has their own units. They have the archers and they have the cavalry and they have the engineers and the bomb guys and the infantry. And I'm starting to think of the old StarCraft games and stuff. You have your siege tanks and your marines. Like there's a bunch of different good guys, right? And that being said, our prebiotic fibers, if we're getting only, I don't know, fiber from wheat, or we're only eating carrots and that's like our only vegetable, right? Then we're missing out on reinforcing some of the good guys and the good units in the good guy army, right? And that's actually the name of the game with regard to improving your digestive tract for longevity. In the Great American Gut Study, this is an ongoing research project right now, one of the things that research has found is that in terms of longevity, the people who are doing best in cardiovascular disease, the people who are doing best in terms of rates of cancer, the people who are doing best in terms of relative level of independence and physical fitness and lack of pain, those people are getting more than 30 different fruits and veggies in their life weekly. I'm going to repeat that. 30 different fruits and veggies in their life weekly. Now, I'm not saying you have to go on like some vegan or vegetarian kick. In fact, I think some of the positive benefits of veganism and vegetarianism for some people come from this diversity that's forced on them. The same thing could be said about people who go vegan or vegetarian and they're eating mostly, I don't know, soy and wheat, and that's it. Like that's all they're having, just in a bunch of different forms that look like cheese or meat or whatever. One of the positive and powerful benefits of varying the fruits and veggies in your week, and we're not talking serving size here, we're talking about diversity, is feeding the different good guys in your gut, right? So try to vary it up, try to get different things, right? Eat your blackberries, eat your carrots. Those are some of my favorite go-tos. But vary your greens. You can get spinach, you can do kale, you can do broccoli, you can do cauliflower, you can do okra. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can add to your life that would be positive and powerful. And for many people that I work with, when I look at their food journal, they're eating the same things all of the time. And one of the easiest things you can do at the grocery store is, hey, instead of buying that, buy that this week. I'm not saying your food's bad. I'm just saying it's good to get some variety in your plant foods. So that's part of the 5-5-5 rule. The other thing is drink 5 20-ounce bottles of water daily, at least. That's a big deal. That gets you 100 ounces of water daily. A lot of people are dehydrated. They don't know they're dehydrated, but they're chronically dehydrated. And it's something that'll show up in their yearly blood work, for instance. They'll have slightly elevated creatinine levels, for instance, in their bloodstream. And their doctors say, oh, you're a little dehydrated. And, oh, well, no big deal. But if you're always dehydrated, that's a problem. If you're always dehydrated, that actually affects your ability to metabolize fat as a fuel source. A lot of people don't know that beta oxidation, that is the process by which your body grabs body fat, and then converts it to a form that can actually use to create ATP. That requires, I almost said dihydrogen monoxide, which is the really nerdy way of saying water, and I apologize. So beta oxidation requires water molecules in order to convert fat to a usable form that can create ATP, that is energy, that can actually burn fat as a fuel source in the body. If you're dehydrated, it is directly against using fat as a fuel source. Being dehydrated is directly against using fat as a fuel source. And the same thing goes for your digestive tract. If you're not drinking enough water and your body is trying to suck all the water that it can out of your digestive tract in order to make up for the fact that you're not getting enough water, then it will severely limit your body's ability to move things through the digestive tract smoothly. And the longer that stuff festers in your large intestine, the worse it's going to be for you for the long haul. So drink enough water. It's not that hard. I promise it's not that hard. One of the things that you can do is just to keep a very, very large bottle of water and try to empty that sucker 5 times a day. That's why I say 5 times a day, 20 ounces of water. I actually use a liter bottle of water, and I try to empty it 3 times a day, which is a very similar number, but to each their own. Now, the other thing you could do that has to do with 5 in your day is a 5-minute walk after each meal. A 5-minute walk after each meal can help the digestive system accumulate some blood flow that will actually improve the movement, the motility of the digestive system, and not only that, but it'll also help you to know when you're actually full. So many people will sit down to eat and they feel like they can't get full. They're eating and they're like, oh, I'll go for seconds. And then about an hour later, they feel miserably full. Why is it that you feel miserably full? Why didn't your body tell you to stop eating? Well, for many people, it takes 20 to 30 minutes for that signal from the stomach to the brain to say, hey, whoa, we've had enough here. And then in some people, that signaling system doesn't work very well for whatever reason. Maybe it's the microbes, maybe it's your biology and genetics, maybe it's an experience with addictive substances in the past. Whatever the case is, if your brain does not signal to you that you are full, whether or not your stomach is actually full, then it's very difficult to know when to stop eating. And so incorporating a walk after a serving of your meal, so your lunch or your dinner or your breakfast, can actually help that process. It can actually help you not feel so hungry because you actually are full. You just didn't know it. So part of walking can facilitate that process. Part of walking can help the digestive motility. And walking can also help to improve blood flow throughout the body, including your digestive tract. Now, notice I didn't say go for a 5-minute run after your meal. And that's because exercise following food can be a difficult thing for your digestive tract if you enter a high enough intensity. That is, if you start to enter a stressed out, like you're stressing out your muscles, then what happens is your body actually pulls the blood flow away from your digestive tract, which is not what you want right after you eat. Pulls the blood flow away from your digestive tract to go to your arms and legs. Why? Well, we need our arms and legs for fight or flight. We need them for intense exercise. We need them for a run. We need them for pull-ups. That's one of the really powerful things that our body can do, is direct the resources that we need to go to the places where they're most needed. Your walk after your meal is not meant to be intense. It's not meant to be exercise. It's meant to be movement that doesn't stress you out. And therefore, it won't pull blood flow away from the digestive tract. Instead, the slightly increased heart rate, the better rate of breathing, and the actual physical movement of the organs in your digestive tract, that will actually improve blood flow across the board for you. And that will help your digestive absorption and your digestive process altogether. So that's the 5-5-5. 5 colorful fruits and veggies daily, 5 20-ounce bottles of water, and 5-minute walks after every meal will improve your digestion. Last but not least, the 5th thing that we can do to improve our digestion is to recover from our inflammation. Now, one of the underlying issues for poor digestion is actually recurring damage to the tissues of the gut. So I talk a lot on the show about using exercise as a scalpel rather than a hammer, right? Let's say I'm doing shoulder press. If I do 3 sets of 20 shoulder press, that's going to stress out the muscles in my shoulder. And after I rest, my muscles are going to recover. So that stress that I've created is going to create some inflammation. It's going to tell those muscles that they're not enough and that they need to be more endurable, or they need more mitochondria, or maybe I need a few more fibers, or I need to be stronger, or I need a better connection to my nervous system, whatever it is. Those adaptations improve because I stressed them out. Well, for some people, that inflammatory process at the level of their gut is not recovering the gut, it's actually creating damage. And then that damage creates more inflammation. And then that damage creates more inflammation. And that inflammatory process, which is mitigated by cytokines, by C-reactive proteins, by interleukin 6 and 7 and a bunch of others, the inflammatory process has gotten out of control. And what needs to happen is the body needs to recover from the inflammatory process in the intestinal tract in order to see improved digestion for the long haul. And so we talked a little bit about some things already that can make a difference. That is nixing the bad guys, right? So if you have a gluten sensitivity, or you are eating a ridiculous amount of eggs and, it's caused a lot of inflammatory response in your digestive tract. And so cutting out eggs might actually help that digestive process. P.S. I'm not anti-egg, by the way. I eat 3 daily. They don't happen to cause an inflammatory problem in me. And so take that. But that being said, it's very, very important that we reduce the inflammatory markers in the gut. And after your body gets to recover from that process, then you'll notice that your digestive system improves. So there's a bunch of different things we can do for that. The primary one is good sleep. And that's not just about your gut. That's inflammatory markers across the entire body. Sleeping well is a huge part of recovering from the inflammatory response. If you don't sleep well, you will not recover, and that's bad. Nothing else I have to say about reducing your inflammation is going to matter if you're not getting enough rest. So we got to reduce the inflammation by recovering from it, and sleeping can be a part of that. Now, there are a few compounds that can actually be helpful in reducing inflammation as well. My personal 2 favorites are aloe juice and curcumin. So aloe juice, you can find that, strangely, in most stores. You'll find them in the pharmacy area. You'll find a big jug of aloe juice. You don't need the stuff with added sugar, just a big jug of aloe juice. I found it next to the stool softener in our local Walmart. Just a big jug of pure aloe juice. That can be really helpful. 3 to 4 ounces a day. It doesn't taste awesome, but it doesn't taste bad, or at least not for me. So, but aloe juice has been shown to reduce inflammatory markers. That's also something people have noticed when they put aloe on their sunburn, for instance. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like you're treating sunburn in your digestive tract. Don't quote me on that. It's not exactly how it works, but the polyphenols in aloe seem to reduce inflammatory markers, which are powerful. And then curcumin is another powerful inflammatory marker reducer, right? So curcumin is actually the concentrated form of turmeric. It's a polyphenol found in the seasoning turmeric. And so when you take it in supplemental form, curcumin can actually reduce inflammatory markers as well. People have seen this beneficial in things like joint pain and aches and even headaches in the past. It's not quite like ibuprofen. They don't work the same way, but it can benefit you in the same way because of the inflammatory process. And then lastly, getting enough omega-3s in your life so that your body can create an anti-inflammatory environment can be pretty powerful as well. I've spoken about this at length elsewhere. I don't want to fill this particular episode with a lot of omega-3 jargon, but getting enough omega-3s is a big part of ensuring that at the cellular level, you are not pro-inflammatory, but that you can have an anti-inflammatory response regularly. And so sleep, aloe juice, curcumin, and getting enough omega-3s can be a powerful part about recovering from the inflammatory response and your digestive system. So those are the 5 things that we can do to improve your digestion. You can start doing them today. You can start keeping a food journal. You can nix the bad guys. You can reinforce the good guys. You can follow the 5-5-5 rule, and you can recover from inflammation at the level of the gut. And so I appreciate you joining me for this. I hope that you're taking notes and that this is powerful and helpful to you. And I would recommend that you refer to both the infographic for the show, which kind of puts this in a more succinct format and makes it easier to remember. Maybe you can put it on your refrigerator and tell your spouse that you're working on this for yourself, and maybe they need to work on it too. Maybe it can help with your kids as well. I know so many children who have digestive and recurring issues with their digestive tract that if parents just knew this stuff, they could obviously implement it. It wouldn't be that hard, and it also wouldn't require a whole lot of expertise on anybody's part to start knocking these things out. So let me know, and I'm very happy and able to start fielding your questions. And if I don't know the answer, I will find somebody who does. This has been Alex Van Houten with Defining Dad Bod. Until next time, guys, kick butt, take names.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.